It's really a great development every day now. One thing is, of course, the uninterrupted internet connectivity. Definitely, we should be very, very grateful because this new year, this Century Webinarathon, the schedule was getting, a bit delayed, mainly because of the technicalities and also to do with the challenges that is posed with the post-COVID era. Okay, so here we are, webinar number 26, and a very, very important topic, which the terminology was introduced by James Cyriax himself, and it's called as the selective tissue tension testing. Okay, the name itself tells, by this combination of tests, the three tests, you can actually selectively identify which of the tissues are at fault. Basically, musculoskeletal tissues were classified into contractile and inert tissues. Contractile includes the muscles and the tendon, whereas the inert tissues are all the other tissues. Muscles include the fascia, of course, but the fascia, or in your fancy accent, fascia, was not contractile. Okay, it cannot shorten its own length and it can lengthen. Tendon can work together with the muscle, same way fascia also works together with the muscle. Okay. However, in physical therapy or manual therapy perspective, contractile will include muscles, fascia and tendon. Okay, all the three. So we will see that selective tissue tension test is a combination of three tests. First and foremost is the active movements which the patients perform themselves depending upon the instructions given by the therapist. And the second, of course, is the passive movement where patient is relaxed and the therapist is performing, okay, on the patient. And of course, the third one is the resisted isometric contractions. Okay, so these three are very, very simple, as their name suggests. We all know active movements, we all know passive movements, we know resisted isometric testing to some extent. But what is important here is the interpretation by relating the findings of each other. Okay, if active is abnormal, then passive is abnormal. Okay, so we are so then we interpret and we can come to the probable conclusion of the type of the injury, the severity of the injury, the what is called as actual even location of the injury also. I'll tell you some examples. Of course, the details of selective tissue tension test is available in the Cyriax manual therapy videos. There are 20 videos, and you can purchase it from the AOMPT, where you can get access to loose body manipulation, deep transverse friction massage, selective tissue tension test, and also in detail the principles of the Cyriax concept. Okay. Of course, globally, the European Training Group of Orthopedic Medicine provides the diploma in orthopedic medicine, where they instruct on the soft tissue injections and other procedures, which you can practice depending upon the legal and the regulatory policies of the council or the local law. Okay, in India, injections are not permitted by physical therapists. Okay, so what we see here: selective tissue tension test, active movements, passive movements, and rested isometric contractions. Okay, so as the name includes active movements, it's a combination of active and movements. So you have muscle activity and you have joint movements. Muscle activity is a contractile tissue, whereas movement is from the joints, which is mostly the inner tissue. And you are bound to see that if active movement is at fault. Okay, what is the reason? Because it shows the patient's willingness to perform the movement. If in case active movement is affected, you can be sure that the patient is not comfortable doing that movement because of the pain, or it's because of weakness, or it's psychologically he's not in his best frame of mind to cooperate for your instructions. Okay, so active movements can be affected because of these reasons, and both contractile and inner tissue problems will affect the active movements. And it's the first and the foremost screening movement testing which you have to perform. In our clinical practice, the importance of active movement cannot be underemphasized, because when patient does themselves, we'll know how much movement we can do passively. Okay, when we observe the active, it sets a benchmark, so you can be very careful when you're doing the passive movement. Of course, you will also get what is called as some kind of active symptoms are coming with functional activities. Active movement itself will give a major clue on the deviation that is happening, or you use a trial and error using rigid tape, kinesio tape, or you see for an MWM, mobilization with movement, and then you recheck, and if the active movement is getting better, you will get a treatment plan directly from there. Okay, it could be either motor control retraining, or it could be what is called as fasciomuscular release, okay, combined with an active contraction. You are doing that, or you might go into the mechanofunctional diagnosis therapy, which is weight bearing, non-weight bearing. So you can integrate into any of the patient-centered clinical approaches of the AOMPT from the active movement itself. Okay, so next you see for what is called as the passive movements. You don't observe the active movement for quantity, okay, how much the movement is happening. You only observe for how the movement is happening, okay, the quality, okay. And in passive movements, you observe for the range, which is called as the quantity. So when you perform a passive movement, the patient muscle contraction is not there, so it's only purely with relaxed muscles. So you position the patient in a comfortable situation where muscles are not contracting, and after that you perform the movement in a very, very controlled manner. You are observing during the movement, especially as per Maitland. Jeffrey Maitland advised that pain, resistance and spasm, the three joint signs which you are supposed to observe during the passive movement. You can also plot them as a movement diagram, and this movement diagram can indicate P1, P2 or P prime, okay, R1, R2 and then S1, S2 for the spasm. So these are explained further under the Maitland concept, okay. So you can take the videos from AOMPT for further information, okay. Of course, when you are doing the passive movements, remember that the hold or the speed, okay, by which you are doing uniformity, because you have to do 5 times minimum, 5 repetitions for assessment. If it is for treatment, you might do it 30 repetitions into 3 sets, okay, in a uniform rhythm. You can do manually or mechanically with continuous passive motion devices, okay. Passive movement, because muscles are not working, it's primarily for inert tissues, okay. So when you are doing a passive movement, what is exactly happening? That means there's a compression on one side and there's a stretch on another side. So symptom can come in the compression side, that is anteriorly pain during elbow flexion. It will indicate a compression or impingement, whereas posterior pain during a elbow flexion will indicate a stretch, okay. So depending upon the compression or the stretch, which comes in relation to the direction of symptoms with the direction of movements, then also the quantity of the movement, and plus during the movement you are observing for pain, resistance and muscle spasm, and most importantly the end of the movement you see for what is called as the end feel. So end feel, normal and abnormal end feels were described also by James Riaks. So he mentioned that elbow flexion, soft tissue approximation, elbow extension is a hard bony end feel, which is also non-normal end feels. External rotation of shoulder is a capsular end feel, and you have extension of the wrist, which is a muscular end feel, okay, stretch, and so these are all normally that is present. Where they become abnormal when every joint has its description of the end feel for particular movement. If that end feel is interchanged with another type of end feel, it becomes abnormal, okay. That means, for example, instead of soft tissue approximation for flexion, if it is bony, that is pathological, okay, because bony is supposed to be in extension of the elbow. Same way, strictly pathological end feels, there is a list of categories which might include empty end feel, where patient is telling that, oh, pain, 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 so you stop the movement, okay. You are bringing it, patient is telling pain, 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 okay, so you stop the movement. So you don't feel anything as a resistance, but patient tells pain, so you are stopping it. That is empty end feel. And of course the next, of course, the boggy, where there is a effusion, there is a fluid collection within the joint, so the joint is telling to be bouncy. So boggy end feel, which can come in knee, especially after the what is called as acute synovitis or inflammation within the joint, intra-articular inflammations. The next, of course, when you are seeing for the other pathological end feels, internal derangement end feel, It comes after a meniscus injury or any loose bodies because of the intra-articular fibrocartilage. So when you're moving the joint, it might go like sudden break, stopping, and after that it moves, again it continues, again it moves, again it goes. That is the internal derangement Enfield or the springy Enfield. Okay, so different Enfields like this, and it can actually be qualitative descriptor. Okay, it's a communication between therapist to therapist, that even a movement diagram, symbolically you can communicate between therapists. You see for P1, P2, R1, R2, which range it comes. Even the range of motion what you are seeing in passive movement depends on the position. Okay, for example, patient's position in sitting you are observing versus supine. The supine range will be better. Okay, or in the passive, why the supine range is better? Because muscles are more relaxed in supine. Okay, if the active, the supine range is better, you should suspect that the sitting involves the trunk muscle activity. So muscle activity is there, so active effort in the shoulder is not there in sitting. Whereas in supine, the trunk activity is not much. Okay, so the shoulder muscle activity is better. Okay, so a patient who is having a core muscle weakness, which is influencing the shoulder impingement syndromes, will have symptoms of active movements. They will have the painful arc, whereas in supine they will not have any symptoms of the shoulder. They will be able to lift more. So active movements difference between sitting and supine will indicate a muscle activity demand because of sitting, more demand in sitting compared to the supine. And passive movements being better in supine will indicate that muscles spasm can be relaxed, okay, in passive, whereas in active movement the spasm might get provoked. So muscle activity elimination, muscle injuries, definitely, because in passive there is no muscle contraction, so symptom won't come if it is from muscle injuries. Okay, so it's mainly for inert tissues, and you are monitoring the joint signs and the Enfield, and still you can see the quantity of the movement. Passive movement in the end range you can do for the muscle length assessments, okay, in order to evaluate the tightness, and capsule tightness versus muscle tightness you can differentiate by hold relax. Okay, so you give hold relax after 5 contractions. If the range is improving, you can say that it is muscle shortening. If after 5 repetitions of hold relax, if the range is not improving, that means you can say it's a capsular tightness. Okay, and of course passive movements which you are examining is a passive physiological movement. It should be correlated, the direction of restriction, with the joint play testing. Joint play, of course, is the next webinar topic, okay, the interactive webinar. So what we see here, when you are doing a passive movement, is actually you are checking the inert tissues. So when you are seeing a resisted isometric test, isometric, okay, it's a contraction, it's purely for the contractile tissues. Okay, so if you have muscle injury, you have fascia injury, you have tendon injury, musculotendinous, tenoperiosteal, any of this can be strains, chronic sprains, acute and partial tear, complete tear, grade 1, 2, 3, or you have a hematoma within the muscle, everything, it will produce the symptoms. Okay, even in tenosynovitis, tenovaginitis, tendinosis, tendinitis, calcific tendinitis, different tendon injuries, traction apophysitis, tenoperiosteal junction, okay, similar to Osgood-Schlatters disease for patellar tendon. Okay, so at the tibial tubercle. So every condition will produce pain on resisted isometric contraction because the contractile unit there is an injury. Even bursitis, because bursa is supposed to prevent the friction, okay, between the tendon and the bone. So that also will be provoked with resisted isometric contraction of the tendon. Okay, when you are seeing between muscle and the tendon, muscle is more loaded with the concentric contractions, and tendon is loaded more with the eccentric contractions. Okay, and that's why rotator cuff tear, for example, rotator cuff tendons tear, drop arm sign, eccentric, okay, that will provoke the symptoms. Okay, what Cyriax explained in painful arc syndrome, where the tendon, supraspinatus tendon, above the greater tubercle, if the painful arc, the pain is there in the end of the range, it is because the scar is there in the superior aspect of the tendon. Okay, and if the painful arc is there in the middle, okay, 80 to 100 degrees. If the painful arc is there, it is the under surface of the tendon. Okay, so the under surface of the tendon inflamed, so it is going on the bony prominence, so the pain is coming. In between, after that no pain, before that no pain. Okay, so he mentioned like this. And if a patient having a throughout the range, a pain through range, he mentioned that it is because of the within substance inflammation of the tendon. It's not the superior or it's not the inferior part of the tendon. So the location is also can be determined by the painful arc. So remember that painful arc is present in an active movement, okay, not in passive. In passive you have the end range symptoms mostly, and hypermobility will have excessive movements in the passive testing. Rested isometric test definitely tells about the contractile tissue injury more specifically. So if a patient is having contractile tissue injury, then active and rested isometric will be abnormal. And if the patient is having inert tissue injuries, then active and passive can be abnormal. Okay. So how do you relate that? If active flexion and passive flexion both are paining anteriorly, you can suspect it is a inert tissue because both the times it is getting compressed. Whereas active flexion is paining anteriorly, whereas passive flexion is not paining anteriorly. Passive extension is paining anteriorly. So opposite direction. Okay. Active is in one direction painful, passive is painful in another direction. It suggests a contractile tissue because active flexion biceps is contracting, so it is paining, and passive extension the same biceps is getting stretched, so it is paining here. So you might suspect that it's a contractile tissue. So these descriptions are very simple, and these selective tissue tension tests can be used as joint clearing tests. So if you want to rule out the shoulder, you can do the selective tissue tension test and say that the shoulder is not the cause for the elbow pain, for example. Okay. So selective tissue tension tests have been validated acceptable clinical reliability in shoulder and also in the knee. But however, for other joints you have to use it with caution, and you have to use it together with the other validated tests and procedures. Okay. So it's a very important method, simplified method. It's part of the clinical examination. All protocols or performer of examination definitely include this selective tissue tension test. You might have seen active movement, passive movement and rested isometric, but you may not know it's the selective tissue tension test. Okay. So joint clearing tests plus referred pain. Okay. When you are doing a selective tissue tension test of the neck, if the pain is reproduced in the arm, you can say that regional interdependence also. When you are examining one region, the symptom is there in the other region. Okay. So I would also advise you to extend the selective tissue tension test into combined directions. Okay. So active also you do combination, passive you give the overpressure, okay, in different directions of combination, and plus in the combined position itself give the contraction. Okay. So in different directions. So try to see for there is a method in AOMPT, which is the orthomyoneuromanual therapy, AMNMT, the advanced clinical approach. So, and also in the Edwards concept practical demonstration, which I have highlighted, how you can use combined movements in active, passive and rested isometric to see for contractile and inert tissues. And contractile tissues can have even trigger points, for example. So trigger points with spasm, then how to treat them with reciprocal inhibitions or positional release technique for spasm, and shortening means post isometric relaxation, which is in muscle energy techniques. Okay. So the treatment plans come, and mobilizations or manipulations. Okay. How end range mobilization could be given, how through range mobilizations can be given with Mulligan's concept, and end range mobilization as a thrust manipulation also could be given after the combined mobilization. Okay, Edwards. So make sure that you understand the importance of this test, and these should be used in clinical practice. So what actually is now is the session open for queries and questions from the participants. Go ahead. Okay, members can put it so that I can see how best I can take you through with finding the answers. Okay, active movement testing, passive movement testing and rested isometric testing. Okay. Even when you are doing an active movement testing, okay, I was telling you the importance of the positions. Okay, supine versus sitting versus standing, shoulder elevation in sitting versus standing. you are eliminating the lower limb. Okay, so hip knee ankle problems, if it's affecting the shoulder, shoulder movement will be affected in the standing. Okay, but sitting will be better. Okay, if trunk is affecting the shoulder core stability, then sitting versus supine. Okay, so sometimes gravity, against the gravity, towards the gravity, the symptom will be there during elevation. You can suspect the muscles myofascial trigger points. Symptom during return, tendinitis supraspinatus. Okay, so returning the drop arm sign. So you can always go ahead with all this pathomechanical interpretation, so that you get a further clue to go into the as we move into further and further into the examination. Okay, remember that observation itself, functional activity which you are doing, there itself active is coming. So after an active movement which the patient is performing, you just do the little passive overpressure. You don't have to make the patient lie down and do passively. Okay, save the time. And in the symptom region, when you are keeping, the patient is telling at the here I am having pain. Okay, so definitely just lower below you give the rested isometric. Okay, flexors, extensors, abductors, adductors, internal rotators, external rotators. Okay, and rested isometric test, you are going to give only 25% of the maximum voluntary contraction, not more than that. Okay, so you should hold the contraction for 5 seconds maximum. Okay, so if you hold it more contractions, it might re-injure the contractile tissue, so use lesser force. Okay, and rested isometric test, you have to keep in the loose packed position. Every joint has a loose packed position. If you are doing elbow, that means 20 to 30 degree flexion of elbow is a loose packed position. So from there you keep the flexors and extensors rested isometric, or pronators or supinators rested isometric. Okay, so these are the principles and selective tissue tension testing and its role in physical examination. Okay, so I open this session for queries. There was a feedback and then the good evenings. Okay, any other queries do we have? So we are through with the webinar 26. Okay, the selective tissue tension tests. In the joint plate testing, that webinar we'll see different concepts. Okay, right from Kaltenborn to Mulligan to Maitland, and how accessory mobilization could be planned from accessory mobility testing. Okay, so that's going to be the webinar number 27. Okay, yeah, when you know that the specific concepts, for example Robin McKenzie's mechanical diagnosis and therapy, the specific indication first and foremost is posture and also movements. Okay, so if you have an abnormality in posture or abnormality in movements and their direct relationship with symptoms, then I have told that you are correcting the posture and then you are seeing the effect. That means directly you are identifying postural syndrome, dysfunction syndrome and derangement syndromes. Okay, so Dr. Siddiq sir, welcome. And remember that if a centralization, peripheralization of symptoms is there during the movements, definitely it will indicate the derangement syndromes. And also auxiliary testing is there. Even in an active movement, sometimes in athletes for example, you may not reproduce the symptoms in active movements. So you might maintain the movement, sustained active movements, or you have to do repetitive active movements. Okay, and then you have to see that how that mechanism can be reproduced by the movement testing, so that symptom reproduction can come. Okay, so everything, if you find palpation, you are finding a trigger point, you can directly go for the myofascial and then fasciomuscular releases. Okay, so treatments can come directly, as that's why I am telling that every level you have a trial of a treatment. Put the rigid tape, check the joint. Put the kinesio tape, check the muscle. Okay, put a cup if it is for myofascial release. Use IASTM, the expert Dr. Siddiq. Okay, so IASTM, instrument assisted soft tissue mobilization. So you just give that and see how the movement is. Okay, movement is better, go ahead with the treatment. Okay, because reassessment has told that the patient is getting better, why not use that? Okay, when the improvement is a plateau, then you have to check for other ones. Okay, and always remember, for every treatment there are a lot of videos available with the AOMPT, including IASTM, kinesotaping, cupping, rigid taping. Okay, so purchase those videos, get your skills upgraded with treatment. Watching the videos, you can practice on patients. Okay, you can watch the videos any number of times, lifetime. Okay, so these are resources which are very worth learning from. Okay, of course, when you are using this movement test, remember that whether individual movement test should be done first, combined movements you will do later. When you do combined movements, sometimes in the spine, when you do lateral flexion or you are using rotations, you have to be aware of the coupled motion. Okay, the mechanics of coupled motion, whether it is type 1 or type 2, and also combined movement mechanics. You should know that how you are adding a flexion, then lateral flexion, then rotation, how the mechanics is different from when you add a rotation, then lateral flexion, and then flexion. Okay, so the sequence of movement itself tests different portions of the facet joint capsule. Okay, different portions of the intra-articular cartilage, okay, or the meniscoid in the facet joint. So make sure that you are clear with the pathomechanics to interpret this combined directions, and of course the auxiliary testing or arthromyo-neuro manual therapy examination also, how you are extending. Okay. So rigid tape is actually the non-elastic one, which is used as athletic tapes, and they are predominantly for stability purpose. They restrict the movements, that's why it's called as rigid. Okay, they are indicated for ligament injuries, so I'm not talking about treatments. Okay, so take the rigid taping video, definitely you will get a better perspective. Okay, should we have any more queries to discuss upon? Needling, if you are doing a dry needle, you don't allow movements. Okay, you don't allow contraction. Okay, so that is contraindicated. Cervical dysfunction and tightness of upper trapezius, which we see of, so that means facet joint dysfunctions. There can be multiple level dysfunctions, which is called as neutral dysfunctions, single level dysfunctions, which can be non-neutral dysfunctions. Of the single level facet joint dysfunctions, it can be flexion or extension dysfunctions. Okay, a flexion dysfunction is an open lock in the facet, which will be limited with during extension it won't be full, and the deviation will come in extension. Okay, deviation will be towards the opposite side. If the lock is this side, because it is flexed, it's an open lock, so it will not close. Okay, so when you are extending, it will try to close, but it will not close, so the deviation will be opposite side. Same side rotation won't be possible. Same side lateral flexion also will be restricted. Okay, so this is a flexion lock. If it is extended lock, it's a closed lock facet, so which will not open. So you do flexion, it will not open, so it will deviate to the same side, and opposite side lateral flexion will be restricted, opposite side rotation will be restricted because facet won't open. So these are facet joint dysfunctions. These dysfunctions can also come. In differential diagnosis, you have a multiple picture. Okay, I have explained in very detail. So remember that regional ones, go back to the regional videos of the AOMPT. Okay, so that's the best resource. Here we are discussing about the principles of physical examination. So we are dealing in terms of how to interpret the movement testing. Okay, not to do with the regional disorders. Okay, if it is a myofascial dysfunctions, tightness means passive movement will be restricted, and you are giving fascia IASTM, or you are giving facial releases. After that the movement becomes better. It's because of the adhesion. Okay, not because of tightness. If it is tightness, then you give contraction, contraction, contraction. After that the range will improve. That is post-isometric relaxation. If it is spasm, then you give reciprocal inhibition, opposite muscle contraction, then the range will improve. Okay, so you differentiate, diagnose, you can extend the examination from the movement testing, integrating contractions, okay, and get a better picture when we come to regional disorders. Okay, I am not taking the regional disorders as a webinar, but differential diagnosis I have taken in terms of the free webinars. Previously 10 webinars I have taken on differential diagnosis. You will find the video links in the Facebook page itself. Okay, here also physical examination is supposed to be 15 webinars, so we are through with around 4, and then we are going to the 5th webinar. Okay, so any more queries are welcome. So remember that occupation, someone is having a computer user or is a college student and a particular work related posture only. Okay, otherwise in the other sitting postures or other upper limb activities the patient is not having any symptoms, then that workstation evaluation will become important. Okay, otherwise observing the workstation is irrelevant. Okay, so you need to know whether it is the causative one or is it the precipitative one, is it an aggravating one or it is a contributing one. So work, usually occupational one is a contributing one. It's called as the ergonomic contributing factors. So there the environmental assessment also will come into the picture in assessment, in addition to the structural or the functional one. Okay, biopsychosocial, okay, perspective. So get your knowledge refreshed, reviewed upon, recharged, and also of course what is important is to replenish. Okay, get yourself updated with the new developments of information. Be with the AOMPT, get access to the videos and learn in depth. Also you will be empowered to share your knowledge with everyone in your clinical settings. Okay, so good luck to you all. Do we have any queries, or we end this webinar on selective tissue tension test? Shoulder movement testing should be included in first day of appointment or after preliminary. Remember, symptoms does not mean that you have to treat the symptom, then only you have to examine. I always mentioned that in the previous one subjective examination I have mentioned about irritability. Just watch it again. I have mentioned it many number of times in all my webinars that irritability is the one which determines examination. Okay, it's not the symptom intensity also. Okay, symptom distribution also, type of symptom also, nothing. Irritability only determines how much you examine first day versus how much you examine later. Okay, so symptom presence does not indicate anything. Okay, really thankful for the feedback. Okay, so to get encouragement from another resource person. But remember that the best learning happens when not just with the best resource person, it is the best way that you can experience with that person. And of course online experience, live webinars, practical webinars have been highly appreciated by all participants. But of course the videos definitely will give a much bigger picture. Okay, so I really recommend you guys to get back to the videos, get access to the videos, purchase them, and you'll see a different world there. Okay, that is the mastery certification in manual therapy, MCMT, which is a full video based course. Of course the online certification in orthopedic manual therapy, OCOMT, is also an extended online course including the webinars and the practicals which were taken during the lockdown. So it's again another comprehensive course. Both are suffix courses, distinction courses. And you can also of course directly attend the programs in Bangalore. I'm announcing the CSMT batch now beginning February 13. You can either watch it live or also watch it as videos later. Okay, in addition to the study materials which you are going to get. Okay, it will also include the previous videos on spine which were taken by me, and also manual therapy for back pain or neck pain. Okay, so those all will be included there. So extensive resources are always provided by the AOMPT. There's no restriction to sharing of knowledge, because I can vouch for one fact that as we share more knowledge automatically comes to you. Okay, I have lived this. Okay, in my life. Okay, so please trust me and share your knowledge with everybody. Don't share the resources, don't share the textbook, don't share the links. Share what you have understood. Okay, share what you want others to know. Okay, so that way you share your knowledge, then your knowledge improves. Okay, it's not by forwarding the PDFs that you know what is there in the textbook. Okay, you read from the textbook, you know what you have learned, then that information you share it with others. Next time when you look at the textbook will talk to you and automatically make you to learn. Okay, and you who are sharing your knowledge with everyone, you don't need a teacher to teach. Okay, you can learn from every source around you. Okay, and such an example, we can see people who are you know doing great exchange of knowledge across various platforms. They are the best what we call as human beings. Okay, along with that vision, definitely these free webinars will be of help. Of course, also refer your friends to join AOMPT, and of course to join the direct programs of AOMPT at Bangalore. Okay, so I'll be happy to visit the other places and conduct my workshops after the March 31st. Okay, so we can also have programs in various places, okay, all around the world. So those who are watching here, the core members and the expert panel members and senior members of AOMPT, of course, new participants who are watching also, get back with your comments, get back with your queries, contact me on WhatsApp, register as a member of AOMPT, take your learning to the next level, okay, and make a difference in the world through physiotherapy. Okay, so good luck to you all, and meet you again in the next webinar in another 10 minutes. Okay, 6:10 I'm beginning with the webinar on joint play testing. So we'll meet again here on the Facebook page.